Why are these 10 commanders so popular? Well, first of all, we have Obeka, which is definitely the most popular right now. Obeka is from the newest set, so that's one factor, and she is very easily the most simple one out there to build, I would say, because she is about upkeeps, and any card that cares about upkeeps can be put in Obeka's deck. She is very complex too, because she cares about the combat as well, so you do need two parts of your deck to work together with Obeka. Other than that, building her goes automatically. All this together makes Obeka the #1 commander of April. See how these top 10s will work. In later videos we'll note the movers shortly too, but right now we will just look at why these commanders are interesting. And if you like to see these kinds of top 10s, let me know. Next up is the Wise Mothman. He is all about going wide in a way and milling everyone. This commander has all 3 colors necessary to make a great +1 counter deck. The Mothman is a man mutated with a moth with purple eyes, not to be confused with the red counterpart. The Wise One has a cult following of people who come to him 4 times a year to celebrate his wiseness and be eaten by the nice man. I mostly think the deck is really fun, because milling your opponents with the red counters and then growing your cultists with every slither of mind you devour is an effect that is really strong and synergistic. Just like the upkeeps are, but this one is just a little bit more complicated. Red counters do something, by the way. They mutate players in a way, making them mill cards equal to the amount of red counters on them on the beginning of their first main phase. Then players who mill a non-land card lose a life and lose a red counter, so they do run out. They aren't infinite in that way, so they do not work every turn. They eventually run out, but they mill you a lot of cards, and eventually they will mill you a non-land card. And that would mean, of course, that you get to put +1 counters on all of your creatures. Next up is Stella Lee, #3, tied with #4, but let's call it 3. Stella Lee is our second Thunder Junction card. Our third, actually. She's a specific kind of spellcaster where you want to cast 3 spells in a turn. The first does nothing. What's 1 spell anyways? We don't really care about just slinging 1 spell. Would you even call it slinging? The second one lets you exile a card from the top of your library, probably hoping you get the 3rd spell, basically. And only after the 3rd one should you play a big instant or sorcery to be copied by her tap ability. Note that this does work for the 4th, 5th, 6th as well. And in the meantime, you could untap Stella, and that is actually what makes her really strong, because if we look at Cerulean Wisps, for example, we can see that it gives a blue creature the ability to untap this turn. Then you draw a card. That means that you play Cerulean Wisps, you let it be on the stack, you tap Stella Lee, you copy the Cerulean Wisps, you let 1 resolve, and then you untap Stella Lee so that you can again tap her to copy the 2nd Cerulean Wisps. And in this way, you can go infinite. And I think this power is mostly what makes Stella Lee very popular. Next up is the other 3rd card, which is Pantlaza, the Sun Favored. This one is just a dino, and it works with dinos, and he's just a guy. He went along with our heroes into the core of Ixalan, and he is basically everything you could hope for a Naya commander, because he draws you cards. Whenever it or another dinosaur enters the battlefield, you discover equal to that creature's toughness once a turn. Meaning you get to play your biggest dino and then exile until you hit a card with less mana value. Then you cast that as well. No other weird part about this except for dinos, which are cool, and some dino combos that work with every dino deck. Next up is Atraxa, which has been the most popular commander for a while now, even after 8 years. She's still one of the most built commanders at a shared 6th. People like Phyrexians, female angels, and proliferate a little bit, even though white doesn't even add that much to a +1 counter deck, I would say. She's most played with Infect, but you could also make a Planeswalker Super Friends deck. The playstyle of slowly corrupting your opponents with Phyresis, I think, just clicks with people. And yes, those things I mentioned before are probably the biggest reasons. Next up is Dragon Tribal. People seem to like Tribal a lot, but mostly the big ones. This Eminence Commander is the prime being from which all dragons spawned. Nicol Bolas was even directly born from this avatar. And basically there are two reasons to play this. All your dragons are 1 mana cheaper for the Eminence ability, and you have all 5 colors. So you can, again, play any dragon you'd like, and I think the success of Obeka reflects here as well. They're just easy to upgrade. You like dragons, take the Ur-Dragon, because any new dragon will fit in this deck. And I think that is why this is such a stable commander too. Murder's at Carl of Manor brought us not many great cards, I would say, but this one is a very successful one, mostly because it is really strong. When Voja's commander or master died, he became angry, embodying not only Celestian colors but red. That is why the Celestian color is red as well. The 5 mana 5/5 with aggressive, protective and defensive keywords isn't only hard to kill, but also has a huge effect, single-handedly winning you the game most often and tying 2 tribes or typal groups together. When this wolf attacks, you draw cards for every wolf that you control, and that's not even the strong part, I would say. You get +1 counters on every creature for every elf that you have, giving you great card advantage and humongous creatures that will win you the game on their own. And then you have that other card advantage which will help you stay in the game for the late game as well. Now I have one very cool card in here that is also an elf. You even get a huge direct damage finisher aside from this Flying Vigilance elf that deals damage equal to the amount of +1 counters you've put on creatures. And with Voja and 6 elves that would be 42 damage, probably enough to win you or at least lose someone the game. Now 3 commanders tied for 10th, which makes these commanders still very popular. One is 6 years old and all about aggressively removing your opponents all at the same time with huge mana values. And any ninja hitting an opponent lets you reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand, netting you the card on one part and, most importantly, dealing damage equal to its mana value. You draw an 8 mana spell, deal 8 to all opponents, and of course you get a neat ninjutsu deck too, confusing your opponents and giving them a little bit too many creatures that they cannot block for guaranteed huge swings. It's only 1 damage, right? Next up is Gonti, also tied for 10th. A new popular commander who makes cards you steal 1 mana cheaper, but that is not the cool part at all. Any creature dealing combat damage to a player lets you steal 1 card from their deck, essentially turning it into your deck. And of course we love to see a Kaladesh Mastermind return with such awesome art. Aetherborn are constantly dying and represented by the smoke coming from Gonti here, but with all the gold he could live forever. And another one of these Universe Beyond cards, another Fallout television. Robert was the Elon Musk of his time in Fallout, and the man makes robots with money and invests daringly using risk calculations, hence the dice you roll. Every normal dice gives you 50% on a new 3/3 robot, so basically a 1.5, 1.5, and a 50% chance of a new treasure that you could later roll again. Of course, a D20 will help you create the treasures more often. I think this is the most popular dice commander I have seen before, and I think this is just a very popular commander on its own, because dice are a cool concept that you would love to work with, but just haven't been able to up to this point. And that was the end for this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I appreciate you and wish you a nice day. Bye.